Welcome back, everyone. We are live with another episode of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, on Cannabis and Instagram. You can also find me, Jack_Greenstock, on Twitter. I'm joined, as always, by an amazing panel this evening, and I want to pass it over first to Spartan Grown. How you doing, Spartan?
Hold on. Sorry. Caught me trying to pick up all the chat screens and everything. What's up, everybody? I'm Spartan Grown. I got a new mic. Let me know if it sounds like crap. Hopefully it sounds better. But you can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, or you can shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com. Happy to be here, guys.
Happy to have you as always. Glad you got a new mic. The audio is sounding fantastic over there. So cheers to that. Cheers to having a joint lit up. I'm toking on some cereal milk this evening myself. It is very delicious. If anybody can get the cut or the flour, highly recommend it. Big fan of it, especially through cannabiotics out here in California. Next up, Matthew Gates. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. This is Matthew Gates. I'm an integrated pest management specialist. Everyone here at the Cheap Home Grower is the first to find out, or maybe sans the Instagram followers, that I'm going to be trying to update my Patreon, and I'm also looking to start up my Discord server that was originally for Patreon. So if you're interested in IPM, you can check out my videos on YouTube channel Zenthanol, the same one I'm commenting in the chat, and you can also subscribe to my Patreon, as well as see me on various other places. I also recently became staff writer for Skunk Magazine, so for those who haven't heard it already. So I'm very excited. I've been very industrious, and I'm here to answer your questions about pest abatement.
Very cool stuff. I was just about to give you the shout out for the Skunk Magazine staff writer. It's really awesome stuff that you're going to be able to do some IPM work over there with them as well. Another industrious individual who's been very active in the industry lately is Rust Brandon. How you doing over there, Brandon?
The soil magician.
I'm chewing on some saltwater taffy right now. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
I'm doing great. Doing my thing. If you guys don't already know me or what I'm up to, you can check out IG rust.brandon. Let me see. Gotta change the little thing right here. Bam, Rust Brandon. Rust.Brandon on IG, just like the little name thing right there.
We'll do it live.
Yeah, you can find like links to my company, Bokashi Earthworks, bam, like the hat and my shirt. And you can find a link to my farm as well, Black Label Organics.
Hell yeah, man. Well, welcome back and getting all the plugs out of the way at the start. So next up, we got Kyle Breeder. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Kyle Breeder. Glad everybody's here. Primarily what I do is I specialize in feminized breeding. And I do have cannabis seeds or feminized seeds. If anybody's looking for those kind of things, I have a website, which is the letter P followed by breeding. And I'm actually getting into autoflowers within the next couple of months. So that should be pretty exciting. If anybody's looking for what I'm doing, you can look me up on any social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And I was on Social Club, but I don't really go on there too much. But yeah, again, everyone, I'm glad everybody's here. And, if anybody in the community has any questions for me, I'm highly active on there. Feel free to reach out and I'll respond.
Welcome back, Kyle. And you can definitely check his stuff out at pbreeding.com. Next up, we have the American one.
Hello, Jack and panel and everyone in chat. I'm the American one. It's always good to be here. And I hope everyone's had a great weekend. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, welcome back. I want to remind everybody who's in the chat, if they haven't already, to click on over to that live chat up there or down there, wherever it might be, in relation to me, depending on which device you're watching this on. But yeah, join that live chat so you can see all the messages within the chat, and you don't get any filtered out randomly based on whatever YouTube decides to block out. So welcome back, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you all for joining us again. We've already got 37 with us right here at the start, first 5 minutes, and it always goes up from there. So always cool to see the audience back again with us this evening. And we are going a little bit off the cuff this evening. I don't have any topics planned for tonight. So this is usually when I pass it over to the American one, and he has a good question, but I see Matthew Gates unmuted himself as well. So I'll pass it first to Matthew Gates.
Unmuted myself? That must have been a software thing.
Oh, you know what? My phone was actually just covering up the spot so I couldn't see your logo. I thought it flashed, but I could always pass back to the American one because I know he's always good for a way to start us off. And then I'll
agree with that.
Click on over to the chat.
Wow, I don't have nothing in particular, but I was thinking about funguses and bugs and stuff. I forgot what my question was. I put it in the chat that we all go to. But yeah, there's some fungus that kills the bugs, and then they feed it to the plants so that it attracts more bugs so that the fungus can eat. And I found that interesting. But now I
I think
forget.
we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. I think I might have mentioned it like some.
Oh, that's
some
in my
fungi-
absence, maybe last week. Yeah,
Oh, was it
damn,
this week? But anyway,
that's possible.
That is possible. We missed you last week, the American one, definitely. But we're happy to have you back. That's for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about.
Well, we were talking a little bit before the show about harvest time, and you are growing some velvet punch, and you just harvested one. I'm about to harvest two here myself that I'm growing for seed, and Spartan just grew a couple as well. So I'm curious. You said that you didn't write down the date, and so you're kind of going based on look and what you're looking for. I'm just curious, so you could share that with the audience, the American one.
Yeah. So let me tell you this experience. So yeah. First off, I guess it depends on everybody wants to do their own thing. Some people like it where you don't, when they want that uppity high, they'll cut it short. They want that blonde hash or that white hash, they'll cut it before it goes even like super cloudy, but whatever. But I just went by the plan, and like sometimes I would think just because all the hairs turn red that like it's spent. But like that velvet punch, there was all the hairs turned red, but that plant was still pretty much growing, and it was all green. And I just let them go until I saw them fade on their own. And I believe in my organic soil, it's definitely not spent. The plants just fade on their own when they're spent, when they're done. So that's what I've been going on, and I don't care how long it takes. That's the way I'm going to start doing every plant in my garden. I'm gonna wait till it's like when it's done, it'll let me know. Because the one that I waited till, and like GML says this with his flushing method, he causes it by flushing it. But when it starts getting into the bud where it gets to the yellow,
it's called
you want to take it
senescence.
before then. Yeah, before then. So the one plant was getting close. So I think let it go as long as you can. The plant should let you know. That's what I believe. How do you go about it, Russ? Because I know you get a lot of different strains going all the time, and
you know,
flush
the sexual maturity of the plant, as far as it no longer being able to accept pollen and having all of the stigma change color.
Right.
So pistils is actually just like the singular thing that gets pollinated. The stigmas are actually the thing that attract the pollen and bring the pollen into the singular pistil per bract. And they're commonly misspoken about. Like often people just call them all pistils, when in majority it's mostly stigma. You can hardly even see the pistil with your naked eye. Like the first one when it shows sex, that's a pistil, because it's actually like the thing that will be pollinated. You could pollinate that even in veg. But later on, you're seeing a lot more stigmas. It's kind of a technicality.
So, my death breath, it'll change, but it'll still fatten up and stuff too after that. Natural senescence usually occurs. Senescence can happen, cell death can happen from lack of nutrients, but if your plant has everything it needs through the cycle, what you'll see is that natural senescence will occur, and that what people call a fade is actually the other pigments that the plant creates. And then when the chlorophyll, which is the dominant pigment, starts going away because the plant stops photosynthesizing, you get things like the carotenoids, and you get some of the other colors that come through.
Anthocyanin.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say, the anthocyanin. So the anthocyanin is going to be responsible for like your blue and purple and pink type pigments, and then the carotenoids are usually your yellows and your reds and your oranges.
Yeah, this is the same reason why why trees change color in the autumn, or at least some of them do. And I always like to mention it because it always jogs my memory. Some people who study aphids specifically, and some other insects as well, think that it's actually one of the major driving factors for aphids to move hosts and possibly other insects too. And that although it wasn't like an intellectual thing, it wasn't like planned, because of plants developing this sort of changing coloration seasonally, things that are adapted to looking for, of course, green, will not see green, and so will not necessarily be as attracted to them sort of visually. Of course, there's more than just visual topics and factors, but it's just an interesting thing to consider. On the other token, though, there are some things that are, of course, going to be more attracted to yellow because it can also be a sign of illness, disease, some sort of a problem in the structure that might be able to be exploited, that kind of a thing. Also sentencing, right? So
yeah, so even though all the stigma pistils, whatever you want to call them, had turned color, and it looked like the plant, like you're saying, Brandon, couldn't get pollinated, and it looked like it was done to me. Like I would call it, it could have been done, but I put it on the microscope, and it was pretty much all clear except for a couple cloudy. So I'm like, man, I'm just gonna leave that thing. And sure enough, because like that's when it was like mostly green and had a couple like blue, purple streaks, near the bud in the tighter leaves. But as I left it in there, it just went purple, and the lower ones were getting that like purple and reddish hue with the yellowing, and I could tell it's like that definitely on its finishings, finishing last leg.
Purple punch is kind of one of those varieties that are notorious for not really like for looking great, but not really having like packing a punch. And it's typically because I believe it's usually harvested a little too early.
I agree 100%. I call it purple punch list when people take it from week 6, 7, or 8. Yeah, I think it's a 9 or 10 week plant. I personally like it at 10 weeks. The amber trichomes is something that people don't like because in the hash they want, like Tao was alluding to earlier, either a more uppity high or a blonder hash, whether they don't have a freeze dryer or if it's just even running it with the freeze dryer. The lighter color is attractive to a lot of people right now. I come from the time of smoking Afghani hash that was dark and amazing, but a lot of people are paying higher dollar for the lighter stuff. So
we're also looking at the purity of what is in it by the way that it burns on your like quartz nail though as well. So if you have a good extractor, he'll pull out certain bags just to make sure that the quality of the product is going to be where it should be.
Yeah, the melt is a big factor for a lot of people, no doubt. I personally bowl top or roll it in with a joint with my hash. I'm not a huge dabber. I do have a Puffco, but even like a e-nail or a rig, I just, for whatever reason, tend to enjoy a little bit more of the hash being smoked with flour. But I get why some people might want to do their dabs. It's quick. You get that kind of effect a lot faster than you do with flour or mixing the two. We were on the topic of harvest time, and we were talking a little bit about color. And I noticed the American one, even a single day with the Velvet Punch, even specifically, and it's a Purple Punch cross. I should throw that out there. But there's also a Mexican Sativa and the Cookie 7 parent. So it's, especially being an F2, you're going to get a wide variety of finishing times on that one. So I'm actually glad you kind of let it go a little longer, because I just had the same thing. I'm growing it right now to make the F3 seeds. And the amount of fade from like day to day to day from week 8 on, both plants are a little bit different, but you could see it gradually every single day getting more purple, and it's a beautiful thing. I think the senescence, I agree with you guys. I think it's not just like running out of food, because I'm growing in organics and I can replant stuff into that soil and grow it even without amending it. So I think it is the plant deciding I'm old enough, I'm mature enough, it's time for my end. It's just a yearly plant. It's not expecting its lifetime to be forever. So at some point, even if it's got plenty of nutrition, I think it's going to start to fade.
Yeah, I'm sure there is some strains that would just keep going forever too, because
some of the hazes.
I think I've had those a couple of times.
I have some of those.
Yeah, they just keep going and going and going.
Kyle grew some of that Carola.
People don't people don't understand that at the equator, it's 12 and 12 the entire year. It's 12 and 12. So like
Breeder
if you
Steve
give the
understands
plant,
it.
yeah, if you give a plant veg that's used to 12 and 12, I mean, seeds that you get from the like veg, they just go crazy.
Hawaii is almost 12 and 12 all year round. It'll be like 11, 13, 12, 12, but they have to do supplemental light to keep mother plants and veg plants. So there's a lot of places that tend to grow really good product. I guess Breeder Steve was saying he noticed compared to Canada that every single variety across the board was 2 weeks faster finishing at the equator because he thinks the intensity of the sun makes it grow faster in veg and finish faster in flower. So that was something that he observed, at least growing equatorially in Colombia, I believe. Definitely got to send some seeds to him, Tao. I mean, you got to go down there for the million seed search.
Find your own variety in there. You're like, I know this is mine.
Well, and we got Noah the grower popping in the group, and Brandon, you should also send some seeds to Breeder Steve if you can figure that out, if you haven't already, because I know he said he's going to welcome anybody who sends seeds.
I got his phone number. I can just text him.
Hit him up. He's been on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle a couple times. He's a really cool dude, and seen him all around Future Cannabis Project. He's been in the community for a long ass time. I usually interact with him most on Twitter, actually. That's a good reason to be on Twitter because he's pretty candid with the people over there. Almost bought the little testing device off of him for the greenhouse, but we had delays, so it wouldn't make sense to just have it sitting.
I feel bad for you, Jack. The whole licensing and everything that's the delays that go along with California, man. It's
like, bullshit, but I can still grow my own
at
home, and that's really at the end of the day, as long as I can grow my plants for myself and my wife, I'm pretty happy and enjoying living in this beautiful weather. But the cost of living out here is very high. That is the one downside, but typically jobs pay a little bit more. I think the minimum wage is higher here than most places as well. But to get back on the growing side of things, Kyle, you were talking about autoflowers earlier, and I was curious, we're talking about finishing times to kind of blend those two topics together. How has your auto growing experience been so far? I remember a while back you had a really good Pineapple Express vino that I think you S1'd, and you've done some other work with autos. So I know you've been working with them for a while, so I'm excited to hear you're going to have some coming out soon. Just wanted to pass the mic on over to you because I know you've been quiet so far. Oh, and shit, I gotta let Noah actually, before you go, Kyle, I gotta let Noah the grower introduce himself. Noah, welcome in. How's it going?
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, I'm doing okay. I got rear-ended by a hit-and-run guy the other day. Hit pretty dang hard, but I'm just glad to be alive and glad to be here with all you guys. How's everybody going?
Damn, man. Doing well. Sorry to hear about that. I got rear-ended a few years ago, and my neck and back are still a little bit messed up from it, so I'm really sorry to hear that. Glad that you could make it and that you're safe, and just really bummed to hear that, for sure. Sorry about that, Noah. But Kyle, to get back on the topic there, I kind of asked you a question about autos and their fade and flowering time, because those, even at like 18 hours, 20 hours, they'll fade at some point, even in like a big pot with lots of nutrition. So I'm curious how you go about figuring out harvest time on your autoflower.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not extremely deep into the autoflower game, but I was playing with them for a while. And just to throw that out there, no, I'm glad you're all right, man. And a lot of different scenarios could happen from there, but I'm glad you're here. But yeah, so I mean, I guess to start all off, so I was playing with it before, but just what the time wasn't right, so I kind of got in with the photo period. But I have a company that kind of wants me to basically supply feminized seeds for them. So and I kind of knew there was a huge market for it. I just didn't really have time for it. But so I'm just going to kind of take the bull with the horns on both these projects, the one I'm doing now, and then the autoflower game. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a whole different game. It's all about basically how I'm going to do it is because they are autoflowers. It's not like you can do a spray schedule and just kind of figure out, when you're going to do your flip and then time, your donors, the donors that are sprayed versus the ones that are going to be receiving it. So the autoflowers, I'm just going to basically be spraying, the bottom halves of all these autoflowers so that I know that they're reverting all of them. I have to do that to every single one. And then whenever one turns male, because I'm getting a bunch of regs and stuff too, where I'm starting off with some of the material that I have. But basically, you just spray the bottom of everything. And then so that way, not only are you able to regulate the top half of the plant to see what she looks like, but you're also already prepared on the bottom half with pollen to do the cross and that way you're always knowing what you're doing. So it's just a different process. And to me, I find that extremely efficient. You know what I mean? So depending on which woman I like, let's say I drop 5 or 50 autoflower fem seeds. If I just spray all 50 bottoms or a couple branches on each plant, whichever 2 I find the best, I'll just take those 2 bottoms and cross the 2 together. So that way I'm just always on top of things moving forward with that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to try and make 4 lines. It's going to be a little difficult. I'll send out some testers first to see if everybody likes them. But I just think that's the best way to go about doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's all kind of new to me. My goal right now, I'm probably going to be playing with some, shout out to Mandalorian, so maybe some Anvil and some Bobby's Widow, or what is it, Bobby's Widow by the Dynafem's White Widow. I don't know what the actual name of that thing is. I was just looking at it online.
He's got a bunch of different crosses: Anvil, Alf,
That might
Bobby's
be
Widow.
Coal Miner's Daughter, I think, is what he called that one.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mandalorian. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he sent me some
I was just looking
ABCs.
at sorry. I was just looking at my Mephisto site, and man, I'm just kind of looking around, just where everybody's at, or people that I respect that I want to start material wise. And I mean, I have my own stock too, but I'm trying to influence other people's stuff too, like we all do in general. But they're just sold out everywhere, man. Like radically sold out. So they're obviously doing really well.
I've got some that somebody gifted to me that I could send to you because I don't have plans to grow them anytime soon, but I don't know exactly what varieties you would want first. But I had a question because I remember a while back you had a Pineapple Express that you really liked that US won, but then it became a photo period and you said you kept a cut. I'm curious if you still had that, if you plan to work with that at all. And then after that, I kind of want to hear Spartan's thoughts on autos because I know he just made a cross with the Tire Fire auto and he's been growing autos in his veg tent / mother area for quite a while. So first, Kyle, I'd just like to get your thoughts there.
Yeah. Well, sadly, as you guys all know, or if anybody's actually been following us, or the same people that's been following us for the last 2 years, when I switched spots, I basically had departed from the person that I was with, and a lot of the material that I had there went with it. So basically the seed collection that I had of her and the plant itself are long gone. And I tried to get them back, but things weren't on good terms, so I didn't get anything back. So yeah, that's but honestly, anybody who's out there though, I was actually just looking online now, I think it was Barney's that created, even though I was looking at that today actually, like right before we came on here. Fast Buds has it, and everybody has it, but I couldn't really recall who actually created it. I think it was Barney's, although when you look on Google it says G13 Labs were the originators of it. But I would still completely run that strain and then cross it into some of Mandalorian stuff. It's just a wicked good strain in general. But yeah, I don't, to answer your question specifically, Jack, I don't. It's long gone.
So Spartan, what are your thoughts over there on autos and their harvest windows and some of the autos you've grown, flavors, potency, and all that? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted on Zoom. I didn't realize it. Too many mute buttons now. Yeah, so as far as autos go, I treat my harvesting of autoflowers exactly like I would harvest a photo period plant. There's no difference there, in my opinion. Everything's the same. I'm looking at all the same indications. As far as my window, like with any auto, I always just in my head loosely plan for 90 days. They'll say they'll give you short and long and all. I always just plan right around 90 days, and that tends to be average for me on the ones that I've ran. The flavors that I'm getting right now, I haven't ran a lot of autos. I've ran the autos all from the same company, so they have similar parentage and similar terpene profiles. And I'm pretty sure that's not the case across the board with autos. So I actually picked up some autos and that's from Morningstar Seed Company, and those I get a lot of because there's a lot of purples. I get that what I call the purple flavor. It's almost grapefruity. It's hard to describe. But I just picked up some more from 2020, their auto race. So I got 3 different varieties of theirs, and it's got a lot of different stuff in there, like Twizzlers and some other stuff. So I'm going to pop these. I also, from Morningstar, got one called Power Grape, which I will pop too, I think, for the summer. And that's hopefully going to be way different than any of this other stuff. I mean, I'm not saying this other stuff was bad, but I just wanted a different flavor profile, you know.
Nothing wrong with a little variety. Breeder Steve's company is actually called Spice of Life, or was called Spice of Life Seeds, and they say variety is the spice of life. So
I like that.
it's nice to have some more flavors in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and as far as the breeding thing, I finished. I filled this fucking thing with seeds.
Damn.
But yeah, so that's the tire fire times the cuvee photo period. And I plan on. I've actually sent a few seeds out to a couple people that reached out, and then I'm gonna run some seeds, and I want to see kind of what comes of that, because I want to make sure there's no weird mutations and things like that. And if they're decent seeds, I'm sure I'd be happy to send them out to people. But I want to make sure that they're at least stable. I would hate to seed out people's gardens and be responsible for that. And I'll still put that warning out there if anybody reaches out. I'd be like, look, man, these are only been tested very little bit, so don't you're gonna keep an eye on them.
That was the case with the Velvet Punch. I sent them out just to some friends and people that asked to be testers, and said, hey, these are testers. They've never been grown before. Watch out. This is the lineage. And a few people found some Hermes. 3 out of the, I don't know, I sent out 70 packs. And I've seen about 15 different people grow it so far, and 3 out of 15. So I would say there's a decent chance to find Hermes, especially in stressful situations like small pots, light leaks. And the one case, there was definitely light leaks and other stuff in that same time hermed. But that being said, it's possible within that genetic lineage. So anybody who's gotten those seeds, who I've given in the past, I sent them all for free, and nobody paid for shipping or anything. And again, warned them and have put it out there a few times. But it's always good to remind the people, if you do have those Velvet Punch F2s, there may be some Hermes if you run those. So look out for them, especially in the first few weeks of flower is when people are seeing like week 3. Week 2 to week 4 is when I'd always be looking with any new strain I run.
I'd advise anyone who starts any seeds from any source, always keep an eye out for the Hermes, because there's multiple examples of people that paid like $300 for a bag of seeds, 10 seeds, and there was like 5 of them were Herms. So yeah, anytime it's from seed, you got to risk a Herms for sure.
So I just started today, you guys. Have you guys heard about? And maybe I'm behind the wheel here, but that they have intersex testing on plants. Have you guys heard of that?
I have not. I do like testing for male, female, like Farmer Freeman, Easy XY. I just sent off 7 the other day. The American ones, Amy Aces, we talked a little bit about before the show.
I finally just got the protocols and everything for the PCR, so I can do that. Now I just gotta, trial and error it. I just gotta trial and error it until I figure it out.
You got to get Brandon a CRISPR machine.
Yeah, give me one of those. Let me figure that out.
Brandon's plants would be doing push-ups and fucking running out of his pots, harvesting themselves and shit.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be. They'd be like self-topping. They'd be like, watch this, check this out. Boop, watch this plant get fucking self-tops. It only grows apical buds. No larf.
We'll be there someday.
Yeah, we'll see.
It would be interesting to see cannabis domestication go the route of like broccoli in that way. Kind of like, or like Brussels sprouts, just like, just like massive, maybe not too massive though, bud sites just kind of going up in a stem with like leaves, like big fat fan leaves maybe.
Some autoflowers, autoflowers look like that. They look like a giant, like my mic, but like 7 times the size. It's just like one giant fucking bud.
I've seen some like that, yeah.
Then there's the like, I'm blanking on the name, Australian bastard cannabis, which doesn't really look anything like cannabis at all. And then they've got a few other ones. There's the duckfoot, and like fasciated plants look pretty crazy with that like mohawk bud.
Like when you get the flower growing out of the center of the fan, all the leaflets, kind of at that like at the bottom or the top, kind of where the petiole, not where the petiole meets the stem, but where the petiole fans out, literally.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff like pretty that. Cool. Yeah, that is pretty neat. Cannabis does a bunch of weird stuff, doesn't it? Plus, it gets you high.
Probably the weirdest thing it does when you think about it.
Yeah, I don't know enough about genetics, but aren't intersex traits pretty much built into cannabis? Isn't that it's kind of what makes
Yeah,
it
I
a
mean,
little bit unique.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
dioecious plants. So genetically, they hold both traits.
so wouldn't a
Clearly
test
they
always
can.
show it?
I mean,
Wouldn't the test
I
always show
could
it to be there?
look at I can make a plant herm, almost any plant. The only plant I could never get to I could get it to herm, but I couldn't get it to have viable pollen from that herm was that purple kush from Oaksterdam mid 90s, that PK cut.
But my question is like, knowing that if we can get all the plants to herm, then wouldn't a test always show? I mean, how can it be a test for intersex traits if every plant has that?
Whether it will
That's a good
express it or
question.
not.
I think it's
Maybe to see if it's recessive or to see if it's a dominant characteristic. Because if
There you go.
if it's a dominant characteristic, that's not what you want. If it's recessive, then it's like, okay, well, it may or may not
Right.
show.
Yeah, that would make some sense.
Well, and like even when a plant herms, it will throw only XX pollen, so it's going to be a different kind of plant than a XY, and so the males
Exactly.
are different than the females in that way as well. So there's like a
Yep,
distinction.
True.
Yeah, I forget who told me about that, but someone's like, 'cause I was telling them about, testing for males at a young age, and they're like, "Oh, well, did you see the intersex testing?" And I was like, "What? I didn't even hear that."
I haven't seen it, but I would believe that it's possible to maybe find something in a bunch of plants that they've identified as being intersex. But like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people can kind of force a plant to become intersex, or maybe they just naturally become that, but they can identify it as a female. Like I've been using Farmer Freeman for literally hundreds of tests at this point, and they've had 100% accuracy, males and females, and I've kept both for breeding projects or just fed them to my cats with the males on some occasions. So they're extremely accurate.
I can second that because I've gone through probably maybe 1,500 of those things by now.
What are you guys doing that? Are you guys doing how many sets of leaves do you have before you can take a clip off that?
Dude, you can literally, yeah, you can take the cotyledon leaf.
Oh wow.
Cotyledon. Yeah, I remember I like to say cotyledon because it sounds like a dinosaur or something, but it's cotyledon.
Cotyledon. That reminds me of how we have like Greek names like Heracles or whatever. What if the word like spectacle, spectales or something like that? Like you could just change the little the ending
The
of something and totally,
Just
what I mean? I love humor like that. I love linguistics.
I'd only ever seen it written because I never like actually physically attended a botany class where I'd heard somebody speak it out or like heard that in a lecture. I'd only ever like read it. So it was one of those things.
Even though I know like that should be something more like hemiptera, I always pronounce the P in hemiptera, even though the ptera is the P silent because it means wing. You know what I mean? But like because I'm just used to reading it like it was an English word, that's kind of how I pronounce it.
You know what? I had to drop out of my my college art history class because you literally have to know how to speak like multiple foreign languages, so that because you were graded on the spelling of all these French, Italian, German Renaissance artists' names. And so you'd have to be able to know all those little cues. And I was like, this is one thing that my brain has a lot of trouble with. So
Chris Webb in the chat asks at Jake Greenstock, what is the process of sex testing for sex? Is it cells they are looking at, DNA? So essentially the one that I use is Farmer Freeman. Yeah, it's DNA, but the process, you basically take an envelope and you take a small cutting off of one of the leaves. You can use the first, like even non-true set of leaves, cotyledon, I think is how it's pronounced. But I usually wait until they have like 2 or 3 sets of leaves and it's growing a little bit. And then I take a snip of one of the lower leaves and then it just like a 1/4 inch is enough. You put that in the envelope. Some people do stamp cards if they're in like a red state and they're worried about sending. They can also test for asparagus or other types of things to see if it's male or female. And so you send that in, and then they take that leaf sample and they put it into a PCR testing tube, and they can test the DNA and say, with their analytic, they've figured out a way to identify this is a male, this is a female. So they email you back, and it says all the numbers that they have pre-labeled on the little stakes that you stick in with the plant. They'll say this number, and that number are male, and all the rest are female. So you can go through and pull out the males, and you can do that like 6 to 8 weeks, or not 6 to 8 weeks, like probably 5 to 6 weeks earlier than identifying it by visual.
Yep.
So it saves you on space, lighting, nutrition if you're nutrient feeding and things like that. But
He's
It's
asking
helpful.
more
It's
on
helpful if you're pheno hunting too, and you're not looking for any breeding work, and you just literally want to pull out all your males so you can grow from seed.
He's wanting like more like what exactly are they looking at in the lab, and I think they're just looking at chromosomes. They're just looking for X's and Y's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sequence of DNA, and they can identify something in there.
What happens is the PCR, what it does is it has this chemical, and it splits the DNA and then replicates it. It rechanges it all back together, and then so there's enough DNA that they can, put this marking fluid in, and that marking fluid will come up one color or the other color. So it's kind of just like boy or girl, red or blue. So they just add the plant material to the PCR machine. It does its little magic, and then it pops out a color, and it says male or female, and they just go and write down.
Now, a couple people are asking where exactly can they go to get these tests.
There's a few different places.
Yeah.
I use Farmer Freeman,
Me too.
EasyXY, because he grows his own at home, and he's a home grower. He's in the cannabis community, but there's also a few different places.
So Farmer, is
Delta
that
Leaf.
an email address they can go to, or do they have to DM them on Instagram? That they want to know.
Yep.
how they can do it?
I hit him up on
Yes.
Instagram always, and then but he has a website. I think if you go through his Instagram.
Are you considering getting your own equipment, Brandon, and doing it in-house?
There's a PCR at the indoor facility already. It's been sitting there along with mycology and bacterial incubators. So I mean, might as well put those things to use.
Yeah, buddy, no doubt.
It's farmerfreeman.com/order, and I'm not sponsored, but I actually use this, and it has helped me and saved me money. And as this is a cheap home grow, I recommend it to people. But Delta Leaf Labs is another one. Steep Hill Labs is another one. So there's more than just Farmer Freeman doing it, but I like to support the people in the community personally. It's about $10 a test if you get the stuff on sale, like $12 per test, I think, if it's not on sale. So it seems like it could be expensive, but in reality, if you run the numbers of how much time it saves you in space, like you might not have to up pot. I tested everything in solo cups, so I never had to transplant up till 1 gallon without knowing, is this a male or a female? In this case, I'm only growing females, so it is definitely going to save me big time.
Yep. I recommend it if you're a home grower. It's not expensive. $10 to see if your plant is female or male.
At the same time, if you've only got 1 or 2 plants, man, just take a clone of that plant and throw it in a cup of water and put it in your flower room. It's fucking so easy.
That's what I've always done.
It's true.
Oh, by the way, no, I'm glad you're all right, boss.
I appreciate that, man.
So Spartan, let's walk that through. I'm just curious because I like the idea. It saves people money as well. I want to give people the option if they have the time, the space, and the energy to do that. So how old is your plant when you take that first cut?
Depends on how everybody wants to run their system. It's a million different answers for a million different questions. But I mean, whenever it's ability, I mean, longer than, you don't want to ever take off more than half your plant, 50% of your plant. So it has to at least be double the height of the clone that you're willing to take off. So that would be the earliest, I guess. And then, so however old that would be. And then you just put that in a cup of water in your flower room and maybe switch out the water every couple of days to make sure you got oxygen in that water. And watch for that plant to change and look to sex test it within probably, I don't even look the first week. So probably the second week is when I start looking at it to be sure. And I might leave it in there for 3-4 weeks. I mean, the cup takes up 0 space and it doesn't need a lot of light. So it can be right on the floor in between your plants or on top of a pot, something like that. And
so
I've used the sex testing and it's just a pain in my ass to have to, for one, I can't go to the store and get a sex test. So for one, I have to order the shit to come to me. And then once they come to me, I have to wait for them to come to me. Then once they come to me, then I do the whole process, send it off and get the results back online. But to me, that's a pain in the ass for 1 or 2 plants when I can just do that, throw it in a cup of water and put it in the fucking flower room and watch. I mean, I'm not in that big of a hurry. If I was big production, yeah, it'd make more sense for 100% make more sense to get those results faster. But I'm not in any kind of hurry.
Well, I think on small production, because that's what I'm in right now, I have 5 square feet and then I have a veg space that's 1 square foot. And so what I do is I buy like 20 of them, and that will allow me to say like I'm growing 7 plants right now, and I'm sex testing all of them, and that 7 is going to go down to 2 or 3. Eventually, hopefully, the best 2 females. But it just saves me what you said. If in my case, if I was to grow a plant big enough to take a clone, that would be at minimum 4 weeks, and then you said another like 2 to 3 weeks. So 7 weeks compared to like knowing in week 2 of veg. Just it saves me a lot, like that 5-week time, and allows me to better plan for the next grow, things like that. So I think it just comes down to everybody's setup. Like on large scale, I can see why it makes sense, and on small scale, I can see why it makes sense. And I've done the math on it, and it has saved me money every single time, in my opinion, just on the soil transplanting up and the space.
In my system, my veg is smaller than my flower room, and the only purpose of my veg is to feed that flower room. So my veg isn't on any kind of schedule. I just give because I'm in organics, I can give just water. I just give them water, and I put the 4 best plants under a light when there's an empty light. So for me, I can leave plants in there all day long. That's all I do is leave plants in there. And you know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me. And, you know, cups don't take up any space in my flower room. So for me, it works out great because
it's very similar to what I do.
Yeah,
very
I'm just laid back guy. I'm just laid back guy. And that's how I run my home grow, dude.
Yeah. My veg room is just like he said, is to feed my flower room. And that's funny, Jack, about the 1 square foot. That just shows you, man, if you want to grow, you're going to grow. Growers grow, man. It doesn't matter what your space is. They're going to figure out a way. Man, I started off with a closet, and my bedroom was the shower in my bathroom. And, man, you don't really need a whole lot, man. If you can stack a lot of stuff in there if you're really aggressive with it. And
like I pull said, pounds every single year out of there. Yeah. So it works for me and my wife. And it awesome, definitely, man. Everybody, I'm happy we talked about both ends of the spectrum because it offers people the option. Because if they want to use Delta Leaf, I'm not sponsored by Farmer Freeman. I've just had great experiences with them. That's why I talk about them. But there's, like I said, Steep Hill's great. A bunch of companies are great at it. But then you can also not even use it. You can just veg the plant long enough and see if it's a male or a female in veg most of the time, if you have a veg space with enough space and enough time. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to go about doing it. And I don't think that any one way is better than the other. It's just, I'm glad that we're giving that information out to the people. I do have a question from Smart Poker who asked way earlier, but shout out to you, Smart Poker, longtime listener and always in the chat every Sunday. I see you in lots of different shows, so cheers to you. I have a question at Jack Greenstock. With spring here, how do we introduce a houseplant in soil to our home without compromising our IPM for the cocoa cannabis grow? And I'll pass that to Matthew Gates.
I only heard the transplanting part of that question.
It's like bringing a house plant into your house. What kind of IPM strategy can you safely bring a house plant into your house and not infest your grow?
I see. Yeah, so I would say the most important thing you could do is you could, of course, before you bring it into your house, look it over, right? I often ask people to crop scout in this way as well, to have like a kind of like a metric or a typical amount of like samples they take, at least for like commercial applications. When it's just your own home grow, maybe the structure is not as important, or you're going to be going over your plants with much more detail. When you do bring it in, if you can not keep it around your other plants at first, some sort of a quarantine would be really great. Not everyone has the ability to do so, and not everyone has the ability to do it well. I know Jack has an example that he's even talked about before, where you even just kept them like near in a cardboard box or something, right? It wasn't like a mesh screen or anything like that, but that's still better than nothing. And if you like, keep them like physically separated.
If you live on your own or with a really awesome wife like myself, then in my kitchen, there's above the kitchen, there's usually a stove, there's a little light with a fan above it, right? So I set a pot upside down on top of the stove with a cardboard box that our like produce had come in. I cleaned out that box really well and checked it. There was no bugs in there or anything. But I set those clones in that cardboard box and basically had a piece of paper down so that the light wouldn't like shine into the living space, and ran that fan and put the plants right underneath it. So I got a little bit of airflow, a little bit of light, and kept it in the box for a few days. And actually ended up finding there was root aphids in this case. So it saved my ass a few times. The other time I found spider mites, I've actually upgraded it. So no other grow, I have a emergency spot. I usually just run from seed every time. That's why my situation's a little bit different. I like to do the sex testing every time, and I don't often take clones. But when I do, I have an area for clones that can also be used as a quarantine if there's not clones being kept in the cloner. It's another 1 square foot cabinet. So like you said, you make it work with whatever space you got.
The other thing that you can do, of course, is you can apply some sort of a treatment method before you have a problem, even if you don't see anything on your first pass over. So that's also just something you can add right at the beginning before you even start to bring it in.
That's
also, if you know what kind of a houseplant it is, like even just doing a cursory Google search, like what are some common pests of this houseplant, can be very helpful.
I would be more aggressive with some spray, because if it's not an edible or cannabis plant, I would be more aggressive with some sort of pesticide, maybe, right? Spray that thing down like a retard. Or I take that back, like spray that down very thoroughly. Yeah. Sorry.
You would want to use something very, very harsh. It's one of the ways you could actually, especially with plants that are like they got like a really great like waxy cuticle that can like take it. Although it really depends on the plant we're talking about. There's a person on Instagram that I associate with Planting the Pain Away, and we've collaborated a lot. She's had lots of different horticultural sort of house plants that she grows and having issues with like flat mites or spider mites or thrips. And all kinds of interesting things. Usually not too bad though. But they can definitely be vectors.
I want to shout out No Other Grow and Spartan Grow, and I think both have mentioned in the past being preventative and almost treating the cuts that they get as if it's already infected. And I'm going to start doing that in the future. I thought, I'll save myself, because the few times that I actually got a cut, quarantined it, and it had no problems, it just worked out great. So you're not spending any time or money or material or effort really on treating it with like a sulfur or a whatever you're going to use. But another tip Noah said, as you often don't chime in, but I learned from you as well, that I like, because I got through aphids the one time, is treat the clone, but then take another clone of that clone. So you're getting basically rid of the media. If it came with like soil or a rock wool or whatever cut came in, you can then basically get a fresh start in your own system with that cut. And I think that can help prevent a lot of stuff being brought in. And then you throw that into your little veg or quarantine area.
Yeah, just pretend that everything that you get has something, obviously Sync Angel being here, it's awesome. And the other thing that he just said earlier is the most important thing is crop scouting. And obviously I know that, but just listening to him say it before, I'm more aggressive with it. And when you bring in a clone, like if you can quarantine it in a different area, like I said, I have a little, even to this day, I have a little shower curtain going across in my shower, and I have a little teeny like 2 foot T5, and I'll just do everything. And then I just pretend it has it. And then I'll take a clone off of it, and I might dip it in. I used to do like Azamax or neem oil. I would just dip the whole thing in it when I take a clone, but now I use the amazing Dr. Zymes. But yeah, you can get away with more doing it that way. And just like you said, it saved me multiple times, because I figure when you get a clone from somebody, it's usually like at least 50-50 that it's got something.
Yeah, and they don't even necessarily know it. That's the ultimate kind of unfortunate nature of it. It can be totally non-malicious, and almost always is. Sometimes people are hiding from you, but usually they're not your friends.
So one of the things too is like this, right? Let's say you get a cut from somebody who does all their IPM and all that other stuff. Just because they don't physically see insect pressure, it's because they're a good cultivator and they're doing that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that something isn't there. It's just that could be at a level that there's no, visible damage. They're holding it at an ecological threshold to where it's not affecting the plant anyway. It's not even noticeable.
2 great examples of that is powdery mildew spores. The first 100 120 hours of lettuce powdery mildew that does infect cannabis is basically invisible to human vision. Thrips like Western flower thrips and others in that same family, I believe, they insert their eggs into the plant tissue itself and don't necessarily have a lot of like really overt damage unless you were to like with a fine-tooth comb just like go through all the different plant tissue. And if it's a bigger plant, I don't think this is very feasible. Um, and of course, we have hop latent viroid, which, as the name implies,
hemp russet too. Hemp russet is real small. Real small.
It is very small. Broad mites are too, but the reason I wouldn't include them is because usually you can see the damage that their saliva causes, that like crinkling, but not always, not at the beginning necessarily. And they could be on your clothes too.
I will say this, the 2 times I got cuts that had insect pressure, it came from clone nurseries. The 2 times that I got clean cuts, it came from my homies' gardens who are just growing for themselves and happened to hook me up like with the cherry pie cut and with the J1 cut. Those were clean as a whistle. I quarantined them, didn't have to spray them with anything, great experience. And then the times that I got them from people that I'm not going to throw any nurseries under the bus because like Brandon was talking about, their plants probably looked healthy and great. And I've seen pictures of their setups, and I've even been to the one person setup, and they were honest about having issues.
Didn't Darkheart spread the hemp latent around?
Hop latent, yeah, big
Hop
time.
latent viroid,
And then they
absolutely.
found the cure, and then they said, we'll sell you the cure. So they spread the fucking issue, and then they'll sell you the cure, which I think is the ultimate irony, but at least they figured it out. I believe personally it's a heat treatment and a cold treatment with the tissue culture, not to like burst their bubble. I don't know how much IP they have behind that, but
you need a lot more technical ability without just that description. So
you
certainly
need to know somebody who can do that.
Yeah, they're certainly, I think, protected there or safeguarded for that.
They may be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I can't claim I'm not working with them.
They were discussing this.
Huh?
They were discussing this issue on a different program earlier today, and I just kept thinking to myself, just go out and buy a fresh, clean piece of that same cut. You know what I mean? They're talking about cleaning these cuts. It's like thousands, if not more, dollars to have your stuff like meristem tissue culture to the point where it's clean again.
Yeah.
Or you could just go find that same exact cut, go buy it for $1,000 and be done.
At least hopefully.
I guess. Is there any that are that rare where there
to,
is not another one in
no,
the whole entire world?
These clone places is if they like, would you call it dark horse or whatever they're called?
Darkheart
is like if they have the tissue culture capability, that's what they should be doing for every one of their clones. It should be a tissue culture clone, and then they can guarantee a clean cut coming out the door or pretty close.
Yeah, but these guys are pumping out like, trays and trays for people who are doing acreage and greenhouses and huge grows and stuff. So it's not feasible or practicable, financially feasible to buy tissue cultured clones.
They do it in cucumbers, I'll say that. And they said one of the biggest things is it scales once you get it to a large mass, if you do it correctly. But one thing is, Spartan and Kyle, you could even talk to this because you sent a clone to one of the people out here in California. I can't remember their name, but they tested your clone that you sent to them, allegedly. Or no, it's not even allegedly because of the hemp farm bill right now. But so you sent them a clone. They tested it for hop latent viroid as well as like tobacco, mosaic virus, and a whole bunch of other things. And then there's places like Node Labs and other places that do sell tissue culture clones. And I believe that some of them are certifying this is a clean of hop latent viroid clone with that clone when you buy it.
Yeah, I actually did get
in Michigan. There's a breeder in Michigan that sells clones of his cuts. State Genetics. They sell tissue culture clones that you can go and get. They're
yeah, that's actually, I was actually just talking to Kevin Jodry yesterday about this whole topic. So I'm about to spend, I'm not going to say the number or what or anything, but so I'm about to start taking TC classes where I'm going to learn meristem and all the other stuff. And then I spoke to Kevin about what he thought in regards to, where the industry is going with it and, the ups and the downs of being involved in it and what it help. And he's all about it, man. It's like I have a whole novel of a list of what he wrote back to me from the questions I asked. But I definitely think it's something that's once you know what you're doing, it's pretty efficient. I mean, he said it was telling me basically if you're just plugging for clones, he's like it's killer, it's stellar because you can have an extreme amount of material in such a small area. And then even when in regards to for people like me and whoever else is like breeding, there's tons of crosses that I have to start deleting because I just don't have the space. And for me, if I could just take a nodal stem and preserve it in that culture, I can always come back to that years later and just basically bring that product back out, down the line.
The space that you save, just holding 100 strains in a fucking mini fridge. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm gonna do with the Curador.
That's what
why I'm trying to learn it.
Man,
that's what I'm teaching myself.
Yeah, so
the things that I do to preserve genetics, dude, I go through extremes, you guys. You don't even know how bad the weather is out here, but I got some shit rigged up just to keep plants alive until the weather gets better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I just think that like on the point of like hot latent viroid and transmission, which actually, now that I think about it, a colleague of mine, Dr. Ramahi, was on the Future Cannabis Project today, I think, talking about that. So you can check him out about that. Now that I think about it, I did miss it. But regardless, for me, I guess my main concern is just that, like, in my experience, I know that commercial cultivation facilities, although they aren't supposed to do this, obviously, in some cases, in a lot of cases, plant material does get in and taken from like private, residents or from other places or whatever. And I guess it's more so that like kind of recursive effect that like a lot of those plants with hop latent get passed, nobody knows about it, or nobody knows who has it. Then those cuts get passed to other people, in a second swing. People who own them privately share them with friends, and over time those intermingle with other ones, and then kind of there's this full circle that comes about when those plants then inevitably go back to at least some nurseries or other sorts of cultivation facilities, and the process starts over. But it's all it's like hysteresis. There's this like lagging effect that happens that catches up with the first round, if that makes sense. I'm being a little inarticulate, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Matthew, did you see the Diego P question? It says how much time the virus stays alive in the plant or dead infected plant tissue or material?
The viroid is actually very, I guess you could say it's very vulnerable. Unlike other viruses, they don't have like.
Isn't it not really like a virus though? Because it's like
it's
RNA.
Not a virus, it's a viroid.
Viroid, yeah, because it replicates RNA, uses the plant's RNA to replicate itself.
Right. So one thing it doesn't lack, or that it does lack, that a lot of viruses have, is a protein casing called a caspid. And they're and I'm not a virologist here, right? So even for viroids are even kind of contentious. Some people describe them as subviral. Some people recognize that there are like things called satellites that allow viroids to interact with other viroids or other viruses, even that allow them to be infectious. Viroids are not found in any other organism so far except for plants, as far as I understand it. So they're extremely basic replicating thing, if however you want to define it. And they don't, and to answer the question, they don't really last outside of their host. The main way that they are transmitted is not through like an insect vector, for example. It's through, at least in some cases, it seems like seeds, at least in hops, and possibly other cannabis, although I'd like to see more research to that effect, but mostly mechanically,
I would think
through like
that,
using equipment.
So I think that's kind of the crux of the question,
scissors.
is even kind of the crux of the question though, maybe behind it, or at least that's what I was thinking when I saw the question, was like, for example, if you had a dead plant, like say it was a harvested plant, and it's been hanging for a week, and I brush against that plant, and then I go touch a living plant, could I transfer it that way?
Oh, I don't think so.
So after the plant dies, when, like, what's the window?
0. I mean, like maybe there's like some infinitesimally small amount of time after it quote unquote dies, but it needs living tissue. It's not stable outside its host.
Here's an example. So if you were in your garden, right, and you had plants that were infected in your garden, and you're going in there and you're going to go prune up everything, right? And you're in there just smashing that shit out. bam, 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 bam. You cut up all this whole variety that all has hemp latent viroid right after that, and you start pruning on the next stuff. I think that's one way that it's going to be transmitted, because it's such a small amount of time before you have, plant material on your instrument and you're transmitting it to the next
That's what
one.
they said.
But I was thinking, like, in a harvest, when you're taking down a plant, I mean, it's still probably got living tissue on that plant for
Yeah, it
24
depends on
hours.
how living the tissue is, I would say. I think Brandon is making a great point about like that kind of, and you
I
too,
could've-
Spartan. That
So-
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
intermediary period.
My guess, what my guess would be, Spartan, is as soon as that plant stops, creating proteins, is probably when those viruses stop, because it takes these internal mechanisms for these things to work. And so if the plant stops building RNA, then the thing's gonna not function.
With like a banana, for example, when you harvest it and it's yellow, or I don't even know if they're harvesting it yellow, but as it develops or it ripens, it becomes like brown and then black ultimately. With cannabis, like the second you harvest it, I'd imagine when you chop the stalk, the whole plant's not just dead like that. There's like still water and moisture. The root, I feel like even the root mass will still drink up some water if like you're in a sip for a little while. And so I'm curious.
Certainly
like,
happens
exactly
with
how long
trees
is
and
it?
stumps.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever, went and harvested your plant and then come
for
back
sure.
and there's
Look
just
at
a
the stalks.
massive amount of just goo just coming out of that
Yeah.
stuff, dude.
Dude,
So I do think that like when I agree. If the cells are dead, the viroid is dead, basically. Maybe
So
with
I'd
some
imagine
caveats.
depends on your drying methods and time and heat and temperature and all that good stuff. But it's best to clean your scissors between, because it seems kind of like with humans, with some of the like STDs that are transmitted through like transmitting your fluids from one to another. If you're cutting a plant and there's still that fluid, it's like live, for example, and then when you go to cut the other plant, you've transplanted it from one to the other. It's sensitive enough that a leaf touching another leaf can transplant it from one plant to the other. So if you're cutting your scissors from one plant to another without rinsing or washing, I think there's a short enough timeline there to expect it's definitely going to transfer.
Absolutely. I think that's the main way that it gets transmitted. And so that's kind of why I think what Spartan and Brandon mentioned was really critical, because you're kind of possibly, maybe after a week, not so much. But I do think that like there could be a special time. There's certainly a time period between plant cells are respirating and doing all the things that they would normally do, but their time is very limited now. And then like cell death. And I don't honestly know exactly when that would be. And I'd love to see more research on the topic.
Certainly an interesting one. We have another question from 428 Community Videos, who actually just left a second ago, but cheers to the GMO. What's the panel's thoughts on seeds made from a female that made pollen after 30 hours lights on, but also finished female after the issue? So it sounds like they had a timer issue. The light stayed on for 30 hours in a row, as opposed to having a few hour cycles of 12-12, and that caused it to stress, herm, and then seed itself. But then once they fixed it, it reverted back to mostly female and like a slightly seeded female plant.
So, like we've said tons and tons of times before, some of the best varieties in cannabis have come from accidents, and they're not necessarily stable. So, it's really contingent on the person that's going to grow that seed out.
Dude, I've got
Right, like what are your plans with it, really?
So I got these really big silicone. They're supposed to be for concentrates, but people don't put concentrates in silicone. The dye in the silicone can still leach out into your concentrates. I've seen it. So I say this is just saved seeds that I just find randomly. I don't know where they're at or where they came from. They're on my floor or something like that. But I'm not throwing those fuckers out. Who knows what they could be in there? So yeah, I'm with Brandon, and especially in that situation where you know what the cause was, it was your own fault, and it was the first thing. I would be keeping those things.
I have a jar of randoms that one of these days I'm just gonna be. I'm doing a random pheno hunt.
Yeah, you
all
ever
the random ass shit.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it when I get some land. When I get some land,
said
that's
I'm
my
gonna do
plan.
that. Then I said I'm gonna use these as seed sprout tea, and then now the randoms like, and then I have them all over. I forget to label them.
I've had people reach out to me on Instagram asking for some.
Practice
so
cracking,
practice
cracking them. The seed cracker.
It would be cool to be. That would be cool for that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. It's
but
all
yeah,
things you could do.
I just finished one of my projects. Actually, I just finished the OG Malawi dog. F2'd it because I only had 3 seeds, and my buddy asked me to preserve it. It was from 2001. It was Malawi and Chem Dog.
Malawi's got some of the best flower structure I've ever seen on a plant, man. They're just, I mean, the ones that I got were just like straight up, like from the beginning to the branch to the very tip of the branch, just straight buds. It was just like long ass sticks.
Speaking of straight buds,
nice, Noah. Yeah,
what's up? Frosty
What's up?
Junk.
With my ribs all messed up. Yeah, no, this is that platinum I just put on my Instagram right here. I'm pulling one of them down.
Damn, that looks good.
That was the which one was that? Platinum.
That's Platinum OG. That's Platinum OG Kush.
Was that in-house?
I believe so. I got a cut of it from somebody who gave it to me a few years back, and it's man, it's one of the ones.
All the good cuts, Noah.
Man, I love this one, man. This one's legit, boys.
Is it like
over with that chunk?
Is it like a frosted out Bubba Kush?
Yeah, it is. But it's got real purple tendencies. I mean, this is the one where I replaced those pre-filters on my carbon filters, and I got new carbon filters. And my dad came over today. He's like, "Man, you can smell that down the block." I was like, "Oh man,
that's a fucking keeper, man.
That's a good one." Yeah.
Put it on the camera.
Oh yeah. No, it's legit. I'm pulling down a bunch of it right here right now.
Nice.
That's what you can do when you get more than 5 square feet.
Hell yeah, dude! Look at that.
He's got the HPS, old school, OG.
I'm still running that old school HPS 1000-watt Hortilux. I've been looking at the Gavitas and all that, but it's just like it's not really as cost efficient to switch it right now. But I've been looking at some of the lights I've seen Brandon have, some of the ones full duplex, and just I'm gonna go to LED, but it's tough, I mean, I got a whole bunch of garden stuff. I'm gonna start some of this living soil outside.
With results like that, right? It's gotta be.
That's why I don't want to rock the boat too much,
I have to say, I like the color a lot. Let's get a really good picture of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll take a picture of one of these buds and I'll post it on my Instagram. I just did post one that went from the flower room the other day, but yeah, I'm trimming some up right now. There's one. So yeah, just having some fun, hanging out with all you guys, man. I feel really lucky to be alive, man. I got hit really hard, guys, probably like 45, 50 miles an hour. And then the dude got out and ran, and that like on my face right here, that's from where my glasses hit my face, just boom. And
did he have a stolen car? Is that why he took off?
Yeah, the police said he had a stolen car because I was in my wife's
You'd think you'd be more careful.
Car. I was in my wife's brand new car. It literally had 800 miles on it, 2021 Honda.
Damn,
but if it had been a one of my old rigs, because I don't have no new rig like that, but I probably would have gotten really, really hurt.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, dude. Thank God you're in the new.
So you were at a dead stop, and he came into you at 45.
So no, I was coming. So I was coming off of the freeway onto this road, and I look over and there's a semi truck, and he must have been on the other side of that semi truck. I look over and it was late at night. It was like midnight, and then I just pull out, and then right then I seen the headlights and just boom, he hit me, spun the whole car around, and I kind of got knocked out a little bit. And a passerby came up and was like, calling 911 and looking in there, and I must have been kind of passed out because he was like, "Are you awake?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I go, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Dude, I'm not the one that hit you. The guy that hit you ran off." And I was like, "Oh man." But we got full coverage insurance and stuff, so we're gonna be all right.
Very happy to hear that.
Cars can be replaced, So
that's the silver lining.
That airbag powder is no joke, huh?
Oh, dude, I'll post a picture of what it did to my sweater. It burned my sweater and my arm and everything. That's what hurts the most is my left side right here. Oh man.
Wait, you got injuries from your airbag?
Oh, dude, big time. The side airbag.
You better call your attorney,
lawyer.
Oh, we're getting a lawyer. we're getting a lawyer. Oh yeah, we got to. You know what I mean? Like,
there's going to be medical expenses, unfortunately, so you have to go through that if they do find the person. Hopefully they do, because that is a serious crime, a hit and run, injuring somebody.
You need
it's fucked up.
You need to go to the hospital too if you haven't
Oh,
already.
I went in the
out.
ambulance, dude.
Okay.
I'm a heart patient, dude. My blood pressure was like 200 over 100, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Like,
because I was just, dude.
I mean, and I'm still having a hard time breathing. Like, I swear my lungs are a little bit bruised, but
you're gonna have to.
Hey, camera off. Turn off your camera, bro, and breathe easy. Fucking take that mask off unless you're around somebody that you have to be wearing it.
Serenity now. Serenity
For real.
now.
Sorry to hear that, man. That's fucking brutal. Not to like force you off camera, but I don't want you to have to wear the mask if you know what I mean. I want you to be able to breathe easy, especially after a brutal collision like that. I had one at much lower, like 20 miles an hour, and I fractured my C5 vertebrae. I still have neck and back pain and shit 2+ years later. So I'm really sorry to hear that, man. It's fucked up, and I really hope they found out who did it eventually. You know, because that's a serious offense and shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, and I'm having a good time hanging out with all you guys, man. Like stuff like this. Like, I was excited for the show. Like, I was looking forward to talking to everybody, and I knew I was going to pull these plants down. And yeah, man, freaking just enjoy life and be safe. That's all I got to say. You know,
that's inspiration to anybody out there, because I mean, he's letting shit stop him. Even with the crazy shit like that, he's still taking care of his plants, and that's going to be medicine for him and many other people. So.
Make sure, too, your body just endured a lot of trauma, and that can be mentally traumatizing too. So make sure that, you deal with your mental health as well, because those things can have long lasting psychological impacts, so
it definitely has.
Being consciously aware of that, and like, you're going to have to, it's kind of like one of those things that, that I've used like psychedelics to deal with and stuff in the past for like different traumas, not necessarily car accidents, but, just being aware of that too, I think is going to be something that you want to focus on, how that can impact you, like, mentally. Because I've been in car accidents, dude. And like, I'm like, if I'm not the person driving and I'm in passenger, I'm like always really super nervous. Makes me really nervous, and I'm like always, and I can't help it.
That's part of the reason I use cannabis, is for the anxiety of people on the road. Like, I live in California, where people really don't pay attention. They're texting and driving. Fucking, there's people that drink and drive, and a lot of people lose their lives to that kind of shit. So I take driving very, very seriously, and you have to be extremely careful on the roads. And I still, 2 years later, after getting rear-ended, every single time I stop getting off of like the freeway, like the same thing that is how it happened, I always am like looking behind me, even if there's not a car behind me. It's like that fucking slight panic. Like, am I going to get fucking rear-ended today again? So definitely mental health is a big thing. And if anybody needs to, whether it's car accidents or some other shit, reach out, talk to people, because if you're just in your own head, you can go down a negative path, but you can always reach out to me. I fucking get back to all the DMs anybody's ever sent me. So if you need somebody to talk to, we've lost some people in our community during these hard times. So never feel like you don't have somebody to reach out to, because you can reach out to me. You can come in this chat and chill with the people in the chat, and mental health, and that a lot of people don't like to talk about. It was a stigma for a long time. And now I'm actually happy to see I studied psychology in college. I wanted to go into dealing with that kind of thing and decided other ways. But I think that it's really important to give it a little bit of a spotlight, because not enough people do realize the importance of mental health.
That's one of the main reasons that I use cannabis, is mental health, like, because it's good for my brain, because I'd otherwise be too anxious. I get paranoid, and that really helps. I mean, I know what you're saying, dude. Cannabis.
Hey, if you're having trouble making your own cannabinoids, plant source is good too, right? Plant bases are right.
I would agree.
So we just got a good question from the chat, and Spartan and I both highlighted it and sent it over to the Zoom, like within seconds of each other. Funny enough, but Justin, cheers to you. He says, at Jack Greenstock, if I wanted to start an outdoor garden in ground, what's the best possible way to prepare for this? I'm going to pass that to Brandon.
Okay, so if you're trying to go into like the actual ground, I would try to do an earth pot. If you can do that, where you basically, you make a pot out of the earth and then you fill it up with a really nice high quality soil. And that'll kind of help remediate the area around that hole as that plant, expands into it. But it can be really difficult to plant directly into native soils, and it's because cannabis has certain nutritional requirements, and if you don't have a sufficiency and balance of those, you're not going to necessarily get a good result. And that's one of the things that we're working on our farm. We have a 3 to 5 year plan where we plan on bioremediating the land that we're using to cultivate our cannabis on. And while we do our row cropping in things like fabric pots, we're going to be doing crop cover on the land. We're going to be doing composting. We're going to be doing microbial inoculants to bioremediate that land so we can go directly in. But it takes a little while to get that soil fertile, because you're taking something that's essentially, like where I'm at, this red clay, it's dirt essentially. It's not even soil. It doesn't have enough aeration and enough mineral content and a balance to be able to. So, you have to create it. You have to create it. You have to create biodiversity, earthworms, different types of bacteria, crop covers, do multi-cropping, different species. You have to create a whole entire ecosystem to keep that soil like continuously going, because typically it will take, eons for, different plants to evolve, and then these soils to develop and break down and become more porous and, house more humic and more microbial life, and just for have higher order, plants developing them. So it's a huge process.
So I have a little bit of experience here in Michigan anyway with the outdoor, and I'm talking 12 plants, but I guess it could apply at scale too. So I couldn't control the land, a lot like what Brandon was just getting into and what makes it tough. My land situation was I knew a guy who let me grow in his pig pen after he harvested his pigs. So he would harvest his pigs, he would rototill the ground, and then I was able to plant wherever I wanted inside his pig pen for the season. So I did similar to what Brandon did, but a little twist on it. So I would dig a hole, but I would grab fabric pots, specifically fabric pots. I don't care what brand, just a fabric pot. And as big as you want to go, I wouldn't go lower than a 20 gallon. So as big as you want to deal with, but no smaller than a 20 gallon is what I would recommend. And dig a hole that's half the height of the pot that you bought. What this does, this is from experiments of us trying a bunch of different ways. What this does is it gives you an easy way to have a contained good soil for your plant to get a good head start before it gets into the native soil. Secondly, because it's halfway in the ground and not all the way in the ground, it's almost like a raised bed. So when you get a big torrential downpour rain, it doesn't have wet root. The feeder roots aren't sitting in water. They get to drain. You know what I mean? All those roots towards the top. So you get a little bit of breath of fresh air there. It really helps you out in wet situations. And then, so then what you do is you get your good soil, and you can either build your own soil or buy a bag soil, whichever route you want to go there. You fill up those pots and you plant your plant in there. Another thing I would do is the area around where you're planting, like right now, you can get through there and just throw wood chips down if that's an option. Anything to keep the plant growth low, because that's like an IPM strategy. If you keep the grass low, whatever, I don't know what you're going to be working with, but if you just keep the plant areas low and cleaned out, you're not going to have to worry about as many bugs. Another thing I would suggest is an enclosure, obviously for security, like fence. We use cattle fencing stacked on top of each other, double height. That's how we build our fencing. Not only does that give you security, but then it gives you a way to, like, you could mock up some kind of a cover or a top. And the reason for that is if hail comes or something like that, it gives you another, you've already got the structure. So it's just an easy fix. A lot of times these things come through, you don't get a lot of warning. So you want to prepare for all that crap to get, from the get-go. And then as far as supporting your plants, figure out a way to support your plants. The best thing we found, we just used those metal fence poles for stakes. And then we just used trellis netting because it was easy. You know what I mean? You can buy huge lengths of trellis netting in one big roll and use these stakes as supports for the trellis net. And you can do 2-3 layers of trellis netting outdoor just like you can indoor if you want to. Trellis nets are great for support. It's a pain in the ass, 100%, but it's great for support, man. Some people use fencing wrapped around in like a tube shape. That stuff's great, but you got to cut holes in it so you can work so you can get your arms into it, and they get sharp for that metal and cut you. It's just fucking annoying. I really like the trellis netting, even though it's plastic and it causes. I understand. It's just, I don't know. I haven't seen a better solution. And I think I hit everything.
They
That's
make
what
hemp trellis netting that's like compostable. It's a little more expensive, and they also like twine. I think you can compost and make your own trellis, but it just depends on the size and the scale of the operation. It is a little annoying to work with, but it provides amazing structure, and it's the easiest way to a beautiful canopy. There's no mistaking why so many commercial operations use it. It creates airflow between each cola. It allows you to fill out a relatively similar height and full canopy on a very consistent basis. So it's a worthwhile investment, in my opinion. And especially if you can move towards something that's more sustainable, like a hemp compostable, but you don't have to. I mean, throwing out one set of string each run isn't going to ruin the world. But plastic is, I guess, terrible for the ocean and things like that. If you watch the Seaspiracy, you're going to get guilted about these types of things.
Even at work, I cut every single square of that plastic. There's no fucking necks getting caught around any of this nets I'm around. I cut every fucking square, dude.
At least
they make plastic. HDPE plastic is biodegradable. It's compostable. You get compostable plastic.
We're definitely moving in the right direction with moving towards more like reasonable. Like in California, they had like a 10-cent tax on the bags, and then that was dropped to the less than top 20 things littered on beaches. Then there's like the straw thing. They're going from the plastic to paper or whatever other types of straw, compostable or glass, reusable, things like that. But a lot of it's the fishing industry is what a lot of people don't really talk about. And that whole Seaspiracy now on Netflix, if anybody wants to watch some shit to go deep in on the environment. That's the fishing industry is tearing it up.
I've got one more tip that just popped in my head I wanted to share, and I got this from when I went over to Painted Ladies. She was showing me what she did for her outdoor. It's fucking genius. So just took rebar from the hardware store, and drove rebar into the ground for supports. So just imagine 2 rows of rebar, spaced away from each other. And then she went and bought PVC that was big, and then just popped it onto the rebar and wrapped it to the other side. And that was the frame. And then just go get your plastic. I'm like, God damn.
Everyone in California is smiling because that's the go-to standard out here.
Yeah. I was just like, wow, that's just so fucking slick.
It works very well. There's a reason you see it all over here. It's very effective. It's a cheap solution. You can get it up and going real fast. And you can make depths, like just rows and rows and rows of depths, like for very little cost, relatively. So it's an extremely effective solution. Even if it's just for rain cover for a night or two or whatever, you can bust that out and do most of your stuff outdoor.
We're going to be running autos this year. We're going to be doing, trellis netting with the posts. And we're running all the full duplexes stuff, early season autos, late season photos.
Yeah, I'm going to be running some of that too. What do you got your eye on from full duplex, Brandon? Which one of those ones are you thinking about?
No, he's going to give me both. We'll probably end up with like 6,000 seats.
Well, he's got more than just 2 at this point. The main 2 he was known for, I think, are Alf and the other one is
Anvil.
Anvil. Spartan, you've reviewed, I think, with Abolished at one point, one of his strains.
Probably Anvil. I think that's the one it was the purple one was Anvil.
It's the Anvil.
Sequence had a good tip for like getting rid of ants in your greenhouse. I think I heard it on Michigan Bro Show the other day. He said that they like basically laid down a bunch of the ant stuff like 20 yards around the outside of the greenhouse, and then also underneath the greenhouse they laid a bunch of it underneath. And then they put like a that like fabric. I'm not saying this the most eloquently. Landscaping fabric underneath like their
Landscaping, yeah.
floor,
And then
and then they
sand
put their
too.
floor down. But they said that took care of their ant issue. So
It was
that's a good
mainly
tip.
the bait. It was those bait traps. So when the ant goes in, it'll go take it like food and bring it back to the colony.
Poisons the colony. Yeah.
We've used the same things at Mint Canico to work, and they worked very well.
I use it at home here in California. It's actually ant season here, and if you have ants in your home, good spray I found from the Farmer's Almanac. It's peppermint oil, cinnamon oil, a little bit of vodka, alcohol. Rubbing alcohol works as well, and then water. And then I do like a drop of Dr. Bronner soap to be a surfactant, I think, at that point. And you shake it all up, and it smells pretty good, and it's friendly to your cats and dogs. So
I've had anthills in my garage every year, and I just dump straight cinnamon on them. That pisses them off.
Yeah, that's funny. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention about this ant topic that fire ants are more and more invasive in the North America in general and other parts of the world. And if you do find that you're being attacked by them, and you'll know, you should definitely you should definitely try to find out if that's what they are and send them to your local extension agent to try to get them. And they'll have treatment ideas for you, and they'll help you out with that. And together we can rid ourselves of this really obnoxious and noxious pest, both for humans and other things. I've seen red fire ants, and I've also seen termites go after cannabis and girdle the stem. So it's definitely a real threat potentially.
to the plant and the gardener there. So what's your 10-second treatment for us as cannabis cultivators and humans who are trying to avoid fire ants if they ever come up on our property?
I do like the idea of using a bait. It depends on where you are and what you have. I like using the Bouverie bassiana as like the toxin, as the poison, as the agent, and then doping some sort of food source. Some ants like sugar, some ants don't. It depends on what you got.
Anybody got Ant-Man on speed dial?
That's a funny ass movie. I liked it. Better than I would have thought. I'll say that for superhero movies. I haven't gone to movies recently, but that was
nobody's gone to the fucking movies recently. Like shit, man, I miss that shit. I used to go to the movies all the time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm about to just like do open up my own movie theater so people can enjoy the movies again.
It's gonna start opening now with everybody getting the shots and everything. But I personally, even when the theaters were open, I liked it for a while, but they overcharge you for fucking food and everything. And now the shit's coming out like a week or two later, or like a month or two later, on demand. So like I could sit here with my wife, fucking do dabs, fucking smoke, chill, eat a good meal that's not overpriced, and have it at home. You know, I think that's why a lot of the movie theaters were struggling even before pandemic times.
Yeah, well, I like to go out to the movies.
It used to be, there's a stat in the 1920s, Americans went to 52 movies per year. That's one per week. Now people go to about 4 per year. It's a pretty fucking crazy drop.
I'm not a big
Spartan,
movie person myself, but I'm actually surprised that 4 is the average. I always thought it was more.
Who knows?
I go to a lot more movies.
Oh, I believe it, though. I believe it.
I just wanted to shout out somebody in chat real quick. I don't GROIG22. It's almost like Greg, kind of.
I think it's like Grow IG 22.
Oh, Grow IG 22. There you go. Thank you for making my brain work. They said they're saying cheers to me for the Moose Lab suggestion, which is this mouthpiece. It says he wants to use these for the rest of his life. Get all my friends and family to use them. Seriously, saves my lungs, improves flavor, better hits. And I agree. Then somebody else was later on asking what they were. That's why I wanted to kind of bring it up. And I'm trying to tell everybody it's just a filter that catches soot and tar. So every time you take a hit, it's a cleaner hit for your lungs. You'll notice a difference after about a week of using one. Your lungs will be clear. You won't cough as much.
I'm gonna try it, Spartan. You've sold me enough times. I've heard it. I'm looking over here at my bong, and I'm like, the bottom of it is dirty. I could probably turn off my background, but I really don't care that much. But the top of it the
Not
part that's
mine,
right by my
dude. That shit's
lungs
clean.
is real clean.
Clean bong.
Real clean.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, dude, it's like $8 for the little starter kit, $8 or $10 tops. Just use it one fucking night and then look at the fucking filter. That's all it's gonna take for you to change your mind.
When I'm not smoking, I'm vaporizing, so I think it might be a little bit less, but who knows? It could be fucking dirty the first night. I'll be surprised, I'm sure.
After 2 or 3 days, and it'll be fucking ugly.
Well, and you said they're cheap. That's the best thing. I was like, oh, they're gonna get me with this racket, the filters, and then I looked at the cost of the filters when they're cheap. It's like what,
Yeah,
$7 for like 10 of them or something.
Yeah. And then if you you can get them in bulk on their website for, I mean, I think the biggest bulk discount, you can get them down to like 50 cents a filter or less. So
Definitely worth looking into. I've always tried to like consider my bong or whatever vaporizer like a medical device because I consider cannabis a medical plant, and it's like your intake mechanism, and I think it being clean is a necessity. If you're going to go into a hospital, they're not going to have dirty implements when you're intaking a medicine. And making me cough like Tao over there. I'm coughing on mute over here, though, so I probably need one. Or maybe just taking too big of rips.
You know, I clean the thing constantly, and it's dirty already. It's amazing how quickly it gets dirty. You know, I clean it daily on the daily, and it gets dirty like 3 times.
To be fair, though,
Hey.
see-through
If you
things.
have an ash catcher, that helps.
yeah.
Yeah.
Got one over here too. So that would be an ash catcher right there. They get dirty as shit.
I mean, it's like bearable, but yeah.
But I do want to say too that I did send a DM to Moose Labs on their Instagram. Shame on them. And they haven't even responded to me. But I said, look, I'm not asking for any kickbacks or anything at all. I just want to get a discount code so that when I recommend this thing, because I believe in it, save some people a little bit of money. And they didn't even fucking respond. So, but I still going to stay here and tell people about it because I still believe in the product. I try to help you guys.
That's some real loyalty to the customers there.
And that's how it should be. I mean, maybe they can't at this time afford to give out a discount. Maybe they're trying to give it at the lowest possible cost that they can continue to produce. So
yeah, but
I
they
think
could
it's
have
cool to
answered
support
them
them.
and said, at this time,
Yeah.
we unfortunately cannot give you the discount code because we are cutting it so close on the profit margin. He could have answered them.
They might also, like, unfortunately, Instagram, this happens to me on occasion. They'll like hide a message for whatever reason.
Happens to me a lot too.
Well, because you have like 18K and growing right now. I think that's why
you're
people are like, holy
yeah.
shit, this is a serious account, Mr. Gates, and your staff editor at Skunk Magazine. So
okay.
I think there's a blue check
No
mark
blue check though.
coming
No blue
in the
check
future.
yet.
It'll happen.
We'll see.
I see someday. I believe it will happen.
How do you get one of those? You gotta get verified.
It's incredibly capricious, and there's tons of threads on Twitter and Instagram, other places about how chaotic and seemingly random it can be.
Yeah, I actually just applied for one 4 days ago, and I just got a message back today saying, "Yeah, no way," basically.
I did that too
Like,
for
nah.
Caustic Earthworks. I was thinking
And
about
then when you check out the guidelines, it's basically like you got to be, there has to be a picture of your face. You have to be well known. Your name must be in the search engine, in a certain high volume, and there's a whole guideline for it.
I followed this cybersecurity expert on Twitter, and she was talking about how she's like, I mean, she wasn't trying to toot her own horn, but essentially she's apparently incredibly influential, and she's got tons of followers, a bunch of other stuff. And yet, like, Twitter just doesn't recognize it, but like tons of other people who are way less, well known or whatever seem to get it as well. I'm not trying to make it I don't know if there's a sexism component here, but I do think that it truly is I think there's a human component that is not able to keep up with everything, and maybe that's what it is. Kind of like with YouTube, right? Like a lot of things are automated, and there's no possible way that you get enough humans to moderate all the content coming in and getting published, right? So
yeah, like shows like this that go on for multiple hours every week, and I hear there's like some crazy amount of videos uploaded every hour of the day, or every second actually with YouTube at this point. There's just like hours and hours of footage going up every single second. So they're not going to be able to moderate every single second of it. We have a question from Justin in the chat who says, at Jack Greenstock, you mentioned vaping a lot. Do you feel a different high when smoking compared? So sometimes yes, and sometimes no. With the Vapor Brothers now, I just have it set to the max temp. I used to try and like get cute with it and be like, oh, it's in the morning, so I'm only going to set it to like 311 and try and get just like pinene and limonene and lower temps for like the uplifting terpenes or whatever. But I've just decided and realized I want to get everything I can out of the flower, so I vape it all the way until it won't hit anymore, and then I dump it out into my little duff jar with it already been vaped, and then I turn that into RSO. So as far as high goes, I think that typically it'll be maybe a little bit more in your head than in your body compared to smoking. Smoking, I feel like you'll feel it almost always a little bit in your body, where vaping, you can feel it sometimes purely just like in your head, so to speak. But yeah, definitely notice a slight difference. But now that I'm hitting at higher temperature, it's more like combusting. Like some people actually wouldn't realize that I'm taking vape hits. It looks like I'm just taking bong hits. So works out. Definitely gets me where I need to go for the most part. But if it doesn't, you can always do a dab. So I just saw a bunch of videos. Brandon, you posted your friends in town. You were showing off a big selection of all the different concentrates you have. Of the ones you showed, do you have any favorites? And if so, why?
Man, there's so much good stuff. I don't have anything particularly that's my favorite, though. I mean, I'm more of a flower guy, to be completely honest. And there was a couple things that we ran last time that I've been smoking a lot of, but I'm almost out. So now I have to change it up and smoke something different.
Poor you. No, but you had a buddy visiting, I believe, if I remember correctly from one of your posts. What was the one that stood out to them, or the one that they chose to dab first, or seemed to stand out?
I liked his cherry pie and his jungle cake. He had some white hoe too, I guess it was called. It was like the white and pie hoe.
Yep.
What was the jungle cake like?
It was good. It was a sauce. It was gassy. It was really gassy, and it kind of had like that, I guess, kind of like Skittles, kind of fruitiness on the front end.
That sounds pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, I've been smoking a lot of different concentrates, and they're all like just so good. But again, I really just I've been really enjoying the Mac V2 cut that we grew out. That's delicious. I'm really excited about the blueberry muffin times Mac. There's some really good stuff in the stuff that I'm growing right now, and then the Limarilla times Mac V2 has some really good stuff in there that I'm excited about.
I was digging that video you posted the other day of making the microbe stuff and dumping all that molasses and stuff and giving out the secret sauce there, man. That was a pretty tight video there. And yeah, you got some fire going on over there for sure, man.
Yeah, well, one of the cool things is, there are a lot of products that claim can do something, but I actually have the data to back it up. And not only that, but I have professional people who are not like affiliated with the product. Like Bryant Morrison, he Soil Doctor Consulting. He sees, he's like, this is what's going on. This is amazing. I don't, so it's an inexpensive product, and it's great because that phosphorus, the ability to solubilize that phosphorus, gives the plant more energy. From a cellular, mechanical kind of level, because it takes adenine triphosphate, which is it's a molecule that drives all cellular biology. And so without this chemical, which is a triphosphorus, bond molecule. That's that's the basis of it. It's phosphorus. So, that's really important in plants. That's why phosphorus is so important, because it offers the plant energy to do all of the metabolic functions and carry out all the cellular functions that it does.
All right, guys, I got to jump out of here. I got to go to the bathroom so bad. My eyes are watering right now.
Oh,
But it was awesome hanging with you guys, and awesome hanging with chat and seeing you guys. And what was that? I'm so high, Jack. I'm smoking the Velvet Punch, the Pheno number 2 right now, and it's putting me to sleep, man. It's really narcotic, so that's cool. Making my eyes like tired. So that's cool, and I'll check you guys out next week.
Peace
I
out,
got a show here. I'm going to Michigan Bros Grow Show. You can catch me there in fucking probably 5-10 minutes, something like that.
15, 20.
15 minutes.
20.
And
Yeah, you got a little time.
this stuff's
Reload
got
your
me
tray, hit the
fucking
bathroom.
blasted. Yep, and you gotta get the dogs out. He's already begging down here. So
Take
catch
it
you guys
easy,
later.
man.
See ya.
Peace and love, Spartan Grown. Always good seeing you. You can find him at Spartan Grown, spartangrown@gmail.com. And he's going to be on the Michigan Bros Grow Show at 6 o'clock, which is about 18 minutes from right now. So cheers to Spartan. Always appreciate him coming on. He was smoking on the Velvet Punch, which I was gifted from my buddy Doja DNA. It is Purple Punch across the Cookie 7. I've talked about it a bunch in the past. I F2'd it. The American one was growing some. He showed a little bit before the show. I don't know if he's still got a light on or not, and if he wants to show anything. But I've definitely got some going, but it's in the dark right now. And lovely plant. I'm glad that he's enjoying the different phenos. He said one's really kind of a heavier narcotics, stony high like that one. And he said the other one's more of a sativa uplifting effect. So he's keeping the more uplifting effect because he said most of the stuff in his garden tends to be more sedating. So he wanted a little bit more of an uplifting one. Sorry, Tao, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, you want to take a look? We could show them right now.
Yeah, I'll spotlight you.
I love that should be a t-shirt that you sell, Jack. Here's this one's for free. Just have a quote. It's like, I have to that. People tend to like that kind of stuff, right? Just a very simple statement. Sounds like something that people say a lot.
What would your title be?
No, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, probably not, right? Me neither.
Okay, there we go. I think it was waiting for me to see his video to allow me to spotlight for everyone. Boom. Got a little bit of purple going on there, the American one. Looking
Yeah,
good.
all right. So this is the one that I posted on IG. I already harvested. It's hanging up in the closet in the drying area. This is one of the other two. I had 3. I have 4 altogether. One hasn't been put in flower yet. Or actually it has, but it's in a different area where the light's not on right now. But I took cuts off of that other one. I didn't get pieces off of this one to survive. That was when I had my hiccup on the but yeah, so let me not babble on. This is the Velvet Punch F2. And yeah, this is I have a picture from February 5th, which looks like they were like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks into flower already. But since I never wrote down the actual date, I don't know for sure. But as you can see, this was the greenest one all along, and now it's totally purpling and fading down at the bottom. Getting some yellowing. Yeah, it gets tough to see with this lighting.
That's
and
my
now
favorite time.
This is the other one, which is much taller and totally different. This one has no real purple except for there's a hue inside on the calyxes, but none of the leaves. The leaves are just fading out yellow color pretty much. There's some color in that one, I guess.
It's got the sawtooth, so my suspicion is that has the Mexican sativa. Since I F2'd it, Velvet Punch is Purple Punch crossed to Cookie 7. Purple Punch is Larry OG crossed to Granddaddy Purple. Cookie 7 is the Thin Mint Girl Scout cookie crossed with what he calls Black Velvet Kush, which is a Mexican sativa crossed to Chem 4. And then he crossed that with, I believe it was a Larry OG. So, damn, that's a beautiful frosty nug right there. The American
and
one.
now you can also see this is the one that didn't have, there is not one white hair on this whole plant, I don't think. Oh yeah, there's one right there. But like the top, they're all dead, and they've been for a while, but the plant was still still growing and stuff. That's the one I was talking about. And then this one is just fading. You can see it now. So
going back to the Purple Punch and Purple Punch lists, Purple Punch can look done at like week 6, 7, and 8. It'll be frosty and it'll be purple. I still push another week, 2 weeks to that 9, 10 range, and it just makes it hit so much harder. And I think you get more of the well-rounded effect.
sure.
Let it
Interesting.
ride.
10 weeks, huh? My punch, I pushed it to 9 weeks on your advice, and I was really happy with the results. But 10 weeks, that's it just kind of makes me, I'm wondering about that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let it ride a little longer. It's 70 days. I know it seems long, but 63 versus 70, I think you can really get more potency out of it. And it definitely packs on a little bit more weight at the end. It's got that OG. It stretches. It's a big producer if it's happy. And I love those plants and those crosses from them. They look beautiful. They smell great. People tend to like them. And if you push it longer, like Noah said, even taking it to 9 weeks, did you notice a potency increase?
Oh yeah, I did. I noticed it. I noticed everything, and I exclusively do that now with it. And I actually just a buddy of mine had a drawing on his page, and I won a package of a punch cross feeds from him, and I'm gonna pop some of those this fall. And purple punch it kind of gets like almost like the blue dream treatment. People kind of slough it off, but man, if you grow it right, that can be a pretty potent and tasty strain there, man. I love it. I dig it.
Matthew, did you want to go? I saw your box light up.
Oh yeah, that must be software again.
Okay. I was just going to say Purple Punch. It comes from Hawaii. Supernova Gardens is the original breeder. And it was just a Granddaddy Purple crossed the Larry OG. It seems like a pretty simple combination, but it expressed, they must have had a beautiful pheno of both those cuts. And the cut that goes around, at least the one that I got, crosses out from my buddy Doja DNA, has been amazing. And the stuff I see Noah grow and many others grow, when it's done well, I agree with you. It kind of people treat it like Blue Dream, where they've had one or two bad examples of it from somebody who didn't grow it necessarily as well as it could have been grown. And then when somebody like Noah gets his hands on it, he really turns it out. And you saw earlier, his stuff looks unbelievable. That Platinum OG Kush, that was like damn near black. Those leaves, I love that really dark fade. Is it getting close to that really deep purple where it almost looks black in person? Because on the camera, to me, it almost looked as black as my microphone.
Yeah, it definitely. Another guy that I follow, he was saying black leaf, guy, and I almost did that when I posted it, but no, it's the blackest leaf, and this plant is the one that I don't see me ever getting rid of. It's the thing about it is that it looks awesome, but it's one of the truly most terpiest one. And whenever I show up at a buddy's house, they're always like, "Hey man, what's up? You got some of that platinum?" That's the one they ask for out of everything I got every time.
That's a good indicator. I know, I think you also might have had the forum cut, or you've ran it for a little bit. That was another one. I've seen the hashtag Black Leaf Society, and there's some really beautiful cannabis. If you check out that hashtag, it's unbelievable. Some of the product people put out there on Instagram, very impressive stuff. Proud of the community and what they produce, including Noah. Have you run the forum cut, and did it get that same kind of black leaf treatment?
Yeah, I have ran it, and I only ran it like 8.5 weeks as the longest. Maybe I did it 9 once, but yeah, I mean, this platinum cut is superior. So I have a real strict regimen. I only have so much room in my canopy. So, and I got a buddy who has that forum cut, and I can get it. And I have ran it a few times, at least 3 or 4 times. But I got this Sunset Sherbet crossed with Dosey-Dos. I got the Gelato 25 crossed with Dosey-Dos. I got a bunch of different Dosey-Dos crosses right now. So I have that cookie angle kind of, kind of going. And that's why I like that Purple Punch, because it's not really, it's kind of not, it's different from that cookie family, which is a lot of my stuff is. So, but yeah, no, the forum cut is obviously, an original OG plant. It's a really good one for sure.
It looks beautiful, but comparatively to what you're yielding, I would say less problematic plant as well. I'd imagine, because the forum cut is very known for herming. 2 of my buddies have it in their gardens, and neither of them have buds as large. They have a much smaller bud structure. They're really like golf ball, super tight and frosty, and it's good medicine. It's got a lot of beta caryophyllene, that's spicy, and humulene. It's good honestly some of the best medicine as for flower for my arthritis, but it's a pain to grow and it doesn't yield as well as something like your platinum OG. So I think you should just keep on killing it with that. And the purple punch, I love the grape personally. I think that grape that comes out, it's really distinct. It's almost like that artificial grape candy. And I'm curious, do you get that same grape on your purple punch, Noah? And what other smells and things do you pick up on it?
It's just like you said. It's exactly it. It's grape, and that was the number one thing I liked about running at 9 weeks. It brought out more of that grape smell and that grape taste. So that's it. I mean, whenever I smell it, I just think grape, and I love it. You know what I mean? So hey, to each their own. Some guys like growing this, some guys like growing that. I love it. So it's a staple in mine in my room for sure.
A lot of people just like fuel. Do you grow any stuff that has like a chem or just pure OG?
I have grown both. But like you said, if a plant, if it's not yielding or, if it doesn't have like just that overwhelming, terpy taste, like, yeah. And I'm always trying out new stuff. I got a bunch of, seeds I'm going to pheno hunt through, and I'm excited to do it. But no, most of my stuff is, real cookie. And then, the purple punch and the platinum both have, cushion and OG cushion it. So, or maybe it's Larry's OG in the purple punch, but yeah, both, pretty cool stuff. So that's kind of where you get most of my, kush from, is those two.
Definitely good stuff. Well, we're coming up to 5:52 here on the West Coast. I think it's about that time we go around the panel and give our final thoughts and shout outs. And I'll start with Noah, the grower.
Right on, man. Yeah. I will say, man, I feel real lucky right now. And, I just am thankful that everything turned out the way it did. You can always buy a new car, and I really was looking forward to hanging out with all you guys. And I'm going to Vegas here in a few weeks, and I'm going to be there on a Sunday. And I'm going to take my phone, my headphones. I'm going to do the show from Vegas. So I'll turn the video on. I'm staying at the Wynn, so with a buddy of mine, he's taking me. So I'm going to have a good time, and with everything that's going on, I'm really looking forward to it. If anybody's got anything they want to see what I got going on, you got any questions for me personally, you can stop by my page. You can direct message me. I'm Noah the Grower, and try and get back to everybody. Had a great time, and I appreciate all you guys' good wishes for me, and thanks for having me as always.
It's always a pleasure, Noah. I'm glad you got to show off some of the buds and get a little bit of FaceTime today. I really hope that you get well soon with the car accident, and make sure you get everything all figured out with the doctors and all that situation. And most of all, have a great time in Vegas, and just be safe and enjoy, man, and have a good time. And thank you again so much for coming. I saw you got here a little bit late, but you definitely never have to have an excuse. But if there ever was one, that is a great one to say, this happened and I wasn't here because that's you're always welcome whenever you get here, and we're happy that you showed up, and we're happy most of all that you're healthy, because like you said, a car, vehicle, any object can be replaced. The people are the most important thing, and I'm happy that you're healthy enough to be able to sit here and talk with us and be able to finish the podcast and do all that good stuff. So cheers to that, and cheers to getting healthy moving forward. But next up, we got Kyle Breeder.
Hey, thanks, Jack. Just so anybody knows, I was going to say this earlier. I'll make it real quick. So I spoke to a genetics IP lawyer down in Cali yesterday. That's pretty heavily involved in the community down there. And apparently it's $2,500 for a provisional patent on cannabis plants, and on the low end, $20,000 for a pretty in-depth patent on cannabis plants. So I've been wanting that for the longest time, and I had a pretty long chat with him about certain things, and just kind of throwing that out there. But if anybody was interested,
really helpful to share that information.
Yeah, the low end, he said 20 grand, and it can go up to anywhere to like 30, 35 grand. But that 35 grand basically is like, they can't use it to breed, they can't use it to do anything, and you can just basically get anybody and everybody for it. Obviously the provisional would protect you for the year, but once that year is over, you'd have to kick up that 20 grand to basically fulfill the rest of the actual the patent. But yeah, I was, and he was telling me I should get in. I was like, well, let me start getting involved first before I start throwing down money for all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, just something food for the thought. But yeah, my name is Kyle Breeder. I do sell feminized seeds, is what I specialize in. I have a website, pbreeding.com. We'll be having autoflower soon, which I'm pretty excited about, because I do find I'm really interested and curious about those plants, and I think they're a beautiful thing too for the community and in general. You can find me on any social media platform, on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm very friendly on there, and I hope everybody has a great weekend or night. Thanks.
Thank you for coming, Kyle, and dropping that info at the last second about the patent cost and things like that. I just have one question. Was the guy's name Reggie by any chance? Because
no, it was Dale.
Okay, yeah, there's the one you said, a prominent one out here in California. There's a few different people that are in that space, but I think it's there's like offensive and defensive approaches, and I think we talked about that on a past show, and it might be another great topic for a future day to discuss on the next one. So thank you again for joining us, Kyle. Next up, the American one.
Jack, thanks for hosting. Excellent job. And shout out to everyone in chat. I'm the American one on YouTube, and the American one _with _Keens on the IG. Just search the American one and look for the little guy with the top hat. That's me. And yeah, it was really cool hanging out. An interesting night tonight. Noah the Grow, I'm glad you're all right. And shout out to Dr. MJ Coco. He posted a light review that I caught earlier, and you guys should go check it out, and go to cocoforcannabis.com. And yeah, peace out.
Thank you so much, the American one. Definitely missed Dr. MJ today, but also saw that video. He does a great job with the LED grow light reviews, mostly LED, I think almost exclusively LED at this point. But he does great work there and at cocoforcannabis.com. So check out his grow light reviews as well as his content over there if you haven't already. Cheers to Dr. MJ. As he would say, growers love. And next up, Brandon Rust.
What's going on, everybody? Shout out to all the listeners and everybody who comes by every weekend to hear us nerd out on weed stuff. Yeah, I appreciate all the people that are here, and I'm always happy to be here with the rest of the panel. You can find my IG at rust.brandon, and you can find a link to my company, Bokashi Earthworks, which if you use coupon code Bokashi right now, you can save 10% on everything on the website. And yeah, you can check out my farm, Black Label Organics. If you're in Oklahoma, you can probably smoke my weed too. I don't know where it's at, but it's in dispensaries everywhere.
You got to make a trip to Oklahoma sooner than later. Definitely want to get a chance to try some of that stuff out myself, and thankful for all you do for us in this community and that community over there. You bring a lot to the table, and I'm happy to see you continuing to have success over there and put product out there for people to try and enjoy. It's an awesome accomplishment to continually be able to do. So shouldn't ever look past all the hard work you're putting in. So cheers to that, and thank you so much for joining us for our Weed Nerd conversation weekly. It's always fun to check in and dive deep on some of these topics, and really appreciate your input whenever you have the time to share it with us. So thank you again, Brandon. And last but certainly not least, Matthew Gates.
Yeah, hey everyone. So if you're interested in more integrated pest management information, you can check me out at my YouTube channel, Zenthanol. You can also check me out on my Twitter account at SyncAngel. You can check me out on Patreon, which is also Project Zenthanol. And I really enjoyed the discussions. I really appreciated the cool questions, and I'd like to do more of that as well. So if I've ever helped you out, just check out my stuff, share it. If you find it that's helpful, that's the most important thing for me, honestly. Any other support in addition to that is always gracious and grateful, but honestly, it's more important for me that they get the information that they need. And so you can also find me on a Discord server that I'll be starting for the Zenthanol Patreon if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Thanks for having me.
Always our pleasure. You make time for us each week, and we really appreciate that. I know you're becoming continually busier and making your services available to others like Skunk Magazine and the Patreon Discord server and lots of other people on YouTube. The free content you put out there, I'll always treasure. I mean, the stuff that you put out has been pivotal in my IPM knowledge and growing experience. I mean, it's helped me and help others, which is ultimately one of the most gratifying things, even if it hasn't directly helped me. Like you said, sharing your content. It wasn't like I was just trying to be like, hey, check out his channel. Like it was more like, hey, this is actually going to help you, and then hopefully support him, like subscribe, follow him for other things as well, because he's not just going to be helpful this time. Like, he's definitely got a lot of great content. So it's a pleasure having you as always, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us. Last, I guess, is me, the host, Jack Greenstock. I can turn my computer, make it a little bit easier this time. You can see my little logo behind me now. I'm on Instagram at Jack Greenstock, as well as Cannabuzz. You can find me Jack_Greenstock on Twitter. And that is it. I host this show each week, and I'm very thankful for everybody who comes. Make sure to leave that thumbs up if you enjoyed the show. And thank you so much for coming, everybody. It helps the show get out to more people that want to grow their own on a low budget, so they can have their own medicine to share with their loved ones and family and for themselves. So cheers to that. Growers loved, everybody. Dr. MJ, we missed you this week, and everybody who couldn't make it, hopefully we catch you on the next time. And this is Jack Greenstock signing out. Peace and love. Catch you next time.